Welcome to the first episode of the Locker Room Talk podcast. My name is Riley Beatty, a small business owner and host of this podcast. I am joined by my co-host and your corporate executive insider, Stacey Miller. Together, we bring you the business resources and knowledge that have traditionally been held secret in the locker room of the good old boys club. Every single week, we invite you to break down the locker room door with us to chat about the development, marketing, sales, and operational knowledge you need to grow and scale your small business. Stacey, tell us what is the game plan for today.
Today's our very first episode. So we're going to be talking a lot about us and why we're here.
Before we jump into that, we wanted to quickly share with you what you can expect from this podcast. This is a weekly podcast for about 15 to 30 minutes, and every single episode is going to have a corresponding newsletter called The Game Plan. Every episode, we're going to start with our small talk, where you get to know us a little bit more and jump into the locker room with us to learn more about our backgrounds and our careers.
Our episodes will always be focused on two things. One is education. We'll be having educational episodes across those four main pillars of business, being development, marketing, sales, and operations. And we'll have banter episodes where we get a little bit more unhinged, sharing our strong opinions about different business trends that we're seeing.
The banter episodes are definitely my favorite, and we're so excited to share all of these things with you. Before we jump in to more about ourselves and the podcast, we want to start off with our small talk question of the day. So, Stacey, first question ever, what is your favorite personal hobby?
Love that we're starting with a personal hobby because we talk so much about business on this podcast and it encourages a little bit of work-life balance. I think you've heard me talk about this for years, as have my friends, my community, my family. I think my favorite personal hobby is backpacking. I absolutely love backpacking. This is where you put everything you need in a backpack and go out hiking in the wilderness and sleep in the wilderness, eat in the wilderness, do everything out in the wilderness. I absolutely love it.
I am so happy that you're still doing this because I feel like I haven't heard you talk about it in the last couple of years, but I'm so excited to hear that you're still out there. Do you have any backpacking trips planned or coming up?
Oh my God, yeah, it's backpacking season now, like we've started. And so I have a couple of really big trips this summer. I have been backpacking in Yosemite for over a decade, and along with like lots of other places all over the world. But this year I've decided to focus on finishing a couple of like big swaths of the Yosemite area. And so I'm extra excited to get back out there this season.
If people are not familiar with backpacking, share a couple things that we need to know.
I love backpacking because it helps you get offline. Like you don't have cell service, although phone companies are trying to change that. But like as of today, you can't access everything that's on your phone. You can reconnect with nature, and it's a nice space to reconnect with friends too if you backpack with others, which most people do. And it's just interesting. Like it's very fun to go out in nature, see new sights, climb mountains, do cool stuff, swim in lakes. I don't know. It's just fun.
For those who are not familiar, you pack all of your food and all of your drink for the entire trip in your backpack. And that was something that we've talked a lot about on the nutrition side. But share a little bit about like what that looks like.
Yeah, you pack all of your food in advance. You do carry a water filter because water is insanely heavy. So usually if you're backpacking somewhere with water, you don't need to carry extra water. But yeah, it's a lot of prep. You carry your sleeping bag, your sleeping pad, your tent, all the gear you need, water bottles, all the food you need, anything you want for like games. Like I'll carry dice or cards so we can play games at camp. And there's different types of backpacking. Some people move every day, like move camp every day. Some people go out, set up camp, and then day hike from there. But I just love it. I could do many, many, many episodes on backpacking, but I will not. What's your favorite personal hobby?
Also love movement. My personal hobby right now that I'm completely obsessed with is running. I have always loved running, but I feel like I really got into it after I had Charlie, my daughter. She's 2.5. So for the last, 2 years, I've really kind of picked up running as a hobby. And I specifically love trail running too. I also love to be in the woods. Catch me in the woods. That's where you'll find me. There's something about moving your body, especially in nature.
I love trail running too. And I also was hoping you were going to say running. I remember the beginning of your running journey at this phase in life when you're like, I don't know, I think I might become a runner. And here we are many years later and you are going strong. I love to hear it.
The craziest thing is I was talking to somebody else about this where like I don't associate myself with the terminology of being a runner. If someone's like, what do you do for activity? I'm like, I just like to run. I don't really see myself as a runner, but I run, 5 days a week and I have a run coach. Like I'm definitely a runner. I don't resonate with that term, I guess.
Oh my God, you're so funny. Riley and I met a long time ago, and I actually met Riley because I needed to work with a dietitian at the time after a slew of injuries. But I remember working with you And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm an athlete. I don't know if I'm the right person for your program. And you were like, you're 100% an athlete. And I feel like I now need to say that to you about running. Like, you're 100% a runner.
I know. We'll talk a lot about this on the podcast, but you see other people and you associate them as a runner or a business individual or a business owner, or like, wow, you're super successful. And we don't think about ourselves like that.
Totally. But it's important we do. I mean, so much of why you and I are here is also to help folks grow their businesses, but also see themselves as business owners that are strong and capable and know their ish.
Freaking love that. On today's episode, we wanted to talk a little bit more about ourselves so that you all can get to know us a little bit more besides just backpacking and running, which are very, very important. But on this podcast, we're going to be talking a ton about business and helping you grow and scale your small business. So why don't we talk a little bit about like our business backgrounds? Stacey, where did you start in your career? Tell us a little bit about your journey and your relationship with small businesses.
I love starting at the beginning here. And I can't wait to ask you the same because I feel like both of our journeys are different. And yet they've followed these really interesting paths that have led us both to here. I went to school for world literature and culture in my undergraduate degree and wasn't really sure exactly how I was going to apply that to my career. Just knew that I absolutely loved literature and culture and learning about like critical thinking, literary theory, all of these spaces that are like pretty niche now that I look back. But that's where I started my education. And so when I graduated, I wasn't in one of those degree programs that was like, let's slot you straight into this career. It was definitely an open like an open field of like wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. And so my first job was actually managing 5 different customer service departments at an upscale, like country club style gym in the Bay Area. And it was such a good crash course in so many areas of business. I learned some of the most valuable customer service lessons of my career there, working with these members of this high-end health club every day. And I learned so much about how to operate and scale a team there because I had a lot of direct reports right out of school, which is not always the norm for folks coming out of an undergrad. That's a little bit about my starting point, but what about yours?
Originally wanted to go to medical school. That was my slotted path coming out of undergrad. I had a dual bachelor's degree in biology and nutrition, and I actually had added nutrition on as like a hobby because there was a lot of overlap with the science classes and I just always loved food. But through my personal journey with an eating disorder and having a really bad body image and just a big struggle with nutrition, I actually decided to go the dietetics route. So I did, apply to medical school. I had interviews. I took the MCAT, and I always laugh because I do think even if I had gone the medical route, I still would eventually have become an entrepreneur because I think it's in my blood. Just that drive to own a small business and to be an entrepreneur. And obviously things would have looked a lot different. It was my true calling. And so now I'm here.
I love it. My degree kind of left this open field of possibility. Your degree definitely gave you a path forward, but it's so interesting that even the path you thought you were going to be on isn't the path that you ended up on, but this is like much more resonant with yourself. I think that's so true for so many people.
So true. I took a gap year because I was a student athlete and I didn't get a lot of hands-on experience in college. And yes, I was trying to do as many extracurriculars as I could, but when your time and your focus is on school and on soccer, it doesn't leave a lot of time for other things. So I took that gap year trying to get experience in the medical field. And I just now laugh thinking about it because all the jobs I were applying for were related to nutrition. Like nothing was related to the medical field at all. And it was just an eye-opening experience, I guess you could say.
That's so funny. I love that.
Let's talk about some pivotal jobs. So you shared a little bit about your kind of first job out of undergrad. What are some of your pivotal jobs in your, 10 plus year career? More?
Yeah, I feel like it's so funny because where I started is not where I ended up. One of the most pivotal jobs I had was actually after I left the gym, I worked in the outdoor industry for a bit, was trying to figure out my path in life, and ended up at a tech recruiting firm. And while I didn't love the job there, I will not lie, I am not made to be a recruiter, and like full respect for people who love and are passionate about recruiting. It's a hard job. I didn't love it, and I learned so much in that job about the tech industry that ended up connecting dots to me working in tech later on. So I think super pivotal job was that tech recruiting job. And then second really pivotal job was when I joined Google. I never expected to work at a large corporation, just given my background and that I had kept this like pretty open look at my career. And yet when the opportunity came about to work at Google, it was such an interesting and new space for me. that I was like, okay, I'll try it out, which is not typical for somebody who's going gung ho to work at Google. I came up into this Google job and thought I'd try it out and really fell in love with it. So I think that would be my other very pivotal job.
We're so often focused on financial gain with a job. And yes, the financial piece is so important. We're going to talk so much about money on this podcast. But there's so much other value that a job can provide. And oftentimes I do think we forget about that. And it sounds like, especially with you, working some of these maybe untraditional jobs or jobs that you didn't expect to work in, you gained a lot of other value besides just financial.
Absolutely. And I think it's important as you're thinking about your job, your career, even your small business, you're thinking about your passion and what drives you there. It's atypical to think about that so early in your career when you do need money. We do need money to survive. And we do talk about money on this podcast a lot. But for me, I really followed an atypical path on my jobs. I, at one point, worked on a high ropes course. Another point, I worked for a Yosemite guiding company. It wasn't a linear path that led me to Google or to tech recruiting. Those were just two stops along the way that were really pivotal. And that's because I really let my passions drive those moves.
Heck yes.
Okay, what was some of your pivotal jobs? Because I know you have a few in your back pocket.
I have two as well. One of the most pivotal jobs, or I guess important experiences for me as a dietitian, but then also as a business owner, was when I was an intern at Taco Bell. So a lot of people don't know this, but Taco Bell has two dietitians on staff. And I worked closely with those individuals at Taco Bell headquarters when I lived in Orange County, California. And this was such an eye-opening experience for me because a lot of my background was in the sciences. And then while I was interning, I was also doing my master's in nutrition science. And I was always surrounded by people who thought nutrition was the most important thing because that's what we were learning. That's what the degrees were. That's what the labs were. That's what the research was being done in. And being thrown into an environment where people don't really care about nutrition that much. And yes, they did. But at the end of the day, the business cared about making money. And learning how to sell nutrition within a corporation and convince others who did not care as much about nutrition, that nutrition was valuable. I can't put into words how beneficial that experience was.
I love that you brought this up because so much of the corporate world that I've worked in for now the majority of my career, like over a decade, I've never been in a sales role. And I always joke with sellers because I work on go-to-market strategy that internal selling is much harder because salespeople have something to sell and there's a transaction that happens, like a trade that happens there. But when you're selling internally, it's purely based on perceived value. And you need these other areas of the business to buy that value of the area that you're working in and why they should work with you. That's almost the trade instead of dollars for product. And I think it's a lot harder. No slight to the salespeople out there.
Do you think it really led into external sales, at least for me? Because
Totally.
now, as a dietitian who was selling a product or a service externally, I remembered that nutrition is very, very important to me as a dietitian, but it's not always at the top of people's priority list. And that's not because they don't value it. It's just because they have so many other things going on. And I think that's a really important thing to remember when selling a product.
Absolutely. Okay, wait, you said you had two pivotal jobs. We talked about Taco Bell. What was the other?
The other was the job I had right before I started my private practice or jumped full-time into private practice. And that was my time as the director of sports nutrition at UCLA. And I do believe you and I connected when I first left UCLA.
I think you were still there, but you were in the process of leaving. We were talking. You were in the process of leaving that job, which is wild.
That was 5 years ago, which is wild. But that job provided so much value for me. I was the director there. I had a couple other dietitians underneath me within the department. And I gained so much value in that job as a dietitian. I was constantly being thrown different problems. I met with so many different athletes, and I gained so much valuable experience from that job. And this was a really pivotal job for me, not only because of the experience I gained, but the decision making I had to go through in order to leave that job. Because what happened was I started to think, okay, I love this job. providing me a ton of experience, but it's not providing the financial backing that I need for a quality of life that I desire. And at the time, I was really, really nervous to jump and do my own thing, but I had to kind of look at the value that was being provided here. And it was like, hey, I have, 3 years here. I've done all this counseling. I've learned everything that I can learn. If they can't meet me financially, this job is no longer providing value for me.
I love that you bring this up and bring it back to like value and finances, because again, finances hopefully aren't always the only deciding factor in these type of really major life decisions. I also feel like in some of the job shifts I've made, finance has been a part of it, but it's almost always grounded in like, is this job fulfilling my needs, my career trajectory, or the things I want to learn, the skills I want to upskill? And I bet so many people who are listening also resonate with this. If you all are small business owners, you know that it's a really big commitment to leave maybe a more stable job and go into your small business. I did this as well when I left Google to start my consulting business, and it's a big decision.
It was the scariest decision I've ever made, or maybe top three, but it was a pretty big decision. It was pretty scary. But I just know that as soon as I made that decision and I walked out of my boss's office, as soon as I quit, I knew it was the right one. And I haven't looked back.
It's such a good feeling when it finally comes to fruition and you get that gut check in that moment, because you really can't emulate that otherwise. Like, you have to just go through that experience.
It was awesome. On the topic of coming into fruition, though, we have to talk about locker room and our personal inspiration for coming together and providing this podcast and the other locker room resources that are going to be coming soon.
Absolutely. And I mentioned earlier how we connected. It was not necessarily focused on business. I came to you as a specialist in dietetics and I needed support on my journey there. But as we got to know each other, I was in the midst of leaving Google to start my LLC in consulting. And so I was able to connect with you and start talking with you about that. And you ended up hiring me in that moment as well. So we've had these moments where we've worked together in a lot of different ways over the years. Personally, I was so excited about this because I've done a lot of consulting and business coaching with my business. You also have a business coaching arm of your other business. And it just felt like this natural moment of like, oh, wait, do we just do this together? Like, it felt like we can really amplify our experiences by partnering up and creating the locker room.
So pumped about it. I am always bragging about you. I'm like, okay, well, Stacy told me this. Like, she knows what she's talking about. And so to be able to do this together, I'm so excited to share everything that you have taught me with the world, because something that you and I have talked a lot about is you can feel very lonely as a business owner. And a lot of people don't understand like what you go through and the stress. And being able to talk to you about this has been so helpful for me. And then now starting this community where others can talk with each other is going to be so helpful to so many people.
We've talked about this so much, that like echo chamber that you feel like you're in as a small business owner. And I've learned as much from you as you've learned from me. Like, in my consulting business, I work with small businesses, startups, and medium-sized businesses, and some larger corporations. But it's been really eye-opening to see how these like corporate frameworks and systems can be translated into the small business space. And so I'm always learning from you, like how those correlate, what resonates, what doesn't. And yeah, that's like the whole reason we figured we should do this, also because we're friends and it's fun.
Yes. And it's fun. Just reiterating everything you just said, like we just bring two very distinct perspectives on this. Myself as a small business owner, and then you as like our corporate executive insider. We are bringing everything together in one place.
I'm just so excited about bringing this together and finally getting the locker room and locker room talk and our game plans and everything else out into the world. Like we said at the beginning, we will be having one of these episodes come out every week. We'll have a corresponding newsletter with additional tips, business information. We'll have different types of episodes here, and there's only more to come from the locker room.
We're just so excited that you're here. You finally have a seat at the table. Welcome to our locker room. Hi, everyone. It's Riley again. You're going to see me on the end of every single one of our Locker Room Talk podcast episodes. As a fellow small business owner and entrepreneur, I thought it would be really, really valuable to check in with you after every single episode to reflect and recap main points in each episode. I have been there. I understand how overwhelming and frustrating the entrepreneurial journey can be. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. I wanted to make make sure that you are taking away main points from each episode. I learned so much every single time I talk to Stacey on this podcast and when we work together. I want to make sure that you're taking away the same main points and the same value from every single episode. Today was our introductory episode. We recapped and talked about the highs and lows in our careers and how we got to where we are today. Like I mentioned, every single episode, we are going to be recapping and reflecting main points that are also going to be highlighted in our free newsletter, The Game Plan. The Game Plan is a weekly newsletter that's going to coincide with this podcast, and it's free to join and become part of our community. This introductory episode is going to be one of 3 that are released with our launch. Episode 2 and episode 3 are going to start to dive into niching, product development, and the concept of product market fit. We're so excited that you're here and that you're part of the Locker Room community.